Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, Hùng and Hoài Ca join Tieu Hoai in preparing for something truly important, his proposal to Tieu San. How will everything unfold? What emotions will each person experience, and what moments will follow this life-changing decision? Stay with us until the end of today's video to fully experience how the story develops. That afternoon, the area around Hùng and Hoài Ca's home was unusually quiet. The familiar vegetable garden remained lush and green, its rows carefully tended since early morning. Hùng and Hoài Ca were working in the garden as they did every day, their movements slow and practiced, no different from their usual routine. The afternoon sunlight spread gently across the yard, not harsh, just warm enough to create a distinct sense of peace. It was within this seemingly ordinary setting that Tieu Hoai appeared. He stepped into the yard without making much noise, yet his presence subtly changed the atmosphere. Hoài Ca was the first to notice. Not because Hoai was dressed differently, nor because of any obvious behavior, but because of his eyes. They were not the same as usual. It was not the familiar tension he carried when dealing with work, nor the fatigue after long meetings. There was a clear sense of nervous anticipation in his gaze, as if he were holding something important back. Hoài Ca watched him a moment longer, a quiet feeling passing through her, that today, Hoai had not come merely to visit or make casual conversation. Hoai did not speak right away. He paused for a few seconds, as if arranging his thoughts, before stepping forward to speak to Hùng. The way he began was slow and deliberate, each word carefully chosen. No beating around the bush, no avoidance, no forced surprise. Hoai said plainly that he wanted to propose to Tieu San. The words were spoken calmly, yet they carried immense weight. This was not a fleeting promise, nor an impulsive emotional decision. Hoai explained that this was something he had thought about for a long time. He had prepared himself, questioned himself repeatedly, and finally arrived at a clear conviction. He was ready to walk a long road with Tieu San, not only with love, but with responsibility and commitment. As Hoai spoke, Hùng did not interrupt. He listened from beginning to end, his gaze fixed on the man standing before him. In that moment, Hùng was not looking at a CEO, nor merely at Tieu San's partner, but at a man standing before a decision that could change his entire life. Hùng did not respond immediately. His silence lasted longer than usual. His eyes lowered, not out of hesitation, but deep reflection. As an older brother, Hùng understood that this proposal was not just about the love between two people. It involved Tieu San, her future, and the bonds of an entire family. In Hùng mind, countless images passed by: Tieu San's journey, the joys and sorrows she had endured, the times she had stood back up through sheer strength. And now, Hoai's decision meant that he was choosing to step fully into that life, more deeply and more completely than before. Hoài Ca stood quietly behind them, saying nothing, yet she could clearly feel the atmosphere growing more serious. She understood that this was a moment Hùng needed to think, to place family above all personal emotion. No one rushed him. No one pressured him. Everything unfolded slowly, but with deep meaning. In that silence, one thing was unmistakably clear. From the moment Hoai spoke his intention, this was no longer just a story of two people in love. It had become a story of trust, responsibility, and family bonds being carefully weighed. And from here, the next developments begin to unfold, step by step, amid anticipation and intertwined emotions shared by everyone present. Hoài Ca is the one who takes the initiative to propose the plan. She speaks naturally, as if the idea has just occurred to her, yet in reality, every detail has been carefully considered. Hoài Ca understands that for everything to unfold smoothly, Hoai needs time, not only time to prepare the space, but also time to prepare himself mentally, to enter a moment he may experience only once in his lifetime with calm and certainty. She takes on her role with clear intention. Hoai Ca will take Tieu and little Ivy out for the entire day, walking around, having coffee, taking Ivy out to play, doing everything in a natural way so as not to raise any suspicion. The goal is not to deceive, but to keep everything moving at the right pace, gentle and unforced, just as Tieu has always wished her life to be. That morning, Hoai Ca arrives very early. The sun is not yet harsh, and the air still carries the cool freshness of early day. She appears with her familiar smile, her voice light and cheerful, giving away nothing unusual. The way she invites Tieu to go out is just as natural as on any other day: a walk, a cup of coffee, a little extra time for Ivy to have fun. Everything sounds perfectly reasonable. Tieu accepts the invitation easily. She does not ask many questions, nor does she think too far ahead. In her mind at that moment, it is simply a rare, relaxed day, one where she does not have to worry about too many things at once. Ivy follows the adults excitedly, her clear eyes filled with anticipation, hoping only for more playtime than usual. Hoai Ca deliberately stretches the time longer than normal. Each stop is chosen carefully, never rushed, never making Tieu feel as though anything has been arranged. She talks, listens, and keeps the rhythm of the morning slow and easy. Throughout it all, Hoai Ca quietly watches every small reaction from Tieu, making sure she remains completely at ease, unaware that anything else is unfolding elsewhere. Meanwhile, back at the familiar house, the atmosphere takes on an entirely different tone. Once Hoai Ca, Tieu and Ivy have left, Hùng and Hai begin their work. There is no noise, no unnecessary conversation. Everything proceeds with clear focus. Hai stands in the middle of the house, looking around the space he knows so well, yet today, it carries a different meaning. He does not choose extravagant or showy decorations. Nothing overly bright, nothing dramatic. Just small lights, warm and carefully placed, creating a space intimate enough to make anyone who enters feel safe and at ease. Flower petals are placed one by one, without haste. Hai does everything slowly, as if each movement carries his thoughts with it. Hùng stands beside him, helping adjust each small detail, sometimes repositioning the lights, sometimes rearranging a minor element so the whole scene feels balanced. Hùng does not speak much throughout the process. He works quietly and with focus, yet inside, emotions begin to rise. Each time he sees how carefully Hai attends to every detail, Hùng becomes more certain of the seriousness behind Hai's decision. This is not an impulsive act, nor a performance meant to impress. It was already dark when Hoai Ca brought Tieu and Ivy back home. The familiar road leading to the house looked the same as always, yet something in the air felt different. Streetlights had come on, their warm yellow glow spreading across the pavement, creating a gentle, unhurried atmosphere. Ivy was tired after a long day out, but still awake, sitting close to Tieu, her small hand tightly gripping the hem of her mother's coat out of habit. Hoai Ca slowed the car as they approached the house. She said nothing more, simply keeping silent and allowing everything to unfold as it was meant to. Tieu stepped out of the car, her mind still thinking this was merely the end of an ordinary day, completely unprepared for anything else. The moment the door opened, Tieu froze. The first feeling that struck her was not overwhelming surprise, but a very clear pause in her breathing. Soft light filled the familiar space, yet tonight it carried an entirely different tone. It was not bright or dazzling, just a warm, even glow that wrapped the room in a rare stillness. Flower petals were scattered gently across the floor, not dense, not showy, but enough to make every step slow down. The space was so quiet that Tieu could hear her own heartbeat clearly, faster than usual, even though she had not yet understood what was happening. And then her eyes stopped at the center of the room. Hoai was standing there. He did not step forward immediately. He did not speak. He simply stood still, his gaze fixed on Tieu San. In his eyes there was no rush, no obvious nervousness, only a deep, genuine focus. As if from that moment on, the world around them no longer existed, leaving only the woman standing in front of him. Tieu San still could not react, could not yet piece everything together. She stood there, her hand unconsciously tightening, her eyes shifting between the room and Hoai, trying to understand what was unfolding. Then Hoai walked toward her. Each step was slow and steady, without hesitation. When the distance between them became very small, he stopped. And then, he knelt down. Not hurried, not theatrical, but calm and decisive, like a gesture he had already rehearsed countless times in his mind. In his hand was a small ring. Not elaborate, not dazzling. Just a simple ring, yet resting in his palm, it carried a weight and depth far greater than any elaborate words. Only then did Tieu San truly feel stunned. Her thoughts broke apart. She looked at the ring, then at Hoai, her eyes beginning to blur. She wanted to say something, but her throat tightened, and no words came out. Hoai did not say much. There were no ornate phrases, no carefully polished promises. Just a sincere sentence, born from everything he had thought through, weighed, and prepared for over time. A sentence clear enough, serious enough, and strong enough for Tieu San to know this was not a fleeting moment. As soon as his words ended, tears streamed down Tieu San's face. Not loud, not dramatic, just silent tears falling before she could stop them. She raised her hand to cover her mouth, trying to stay composed, but the emotions came too fast, too powerfully. Ivy stood nearby, not fully understanding what everything meant, yet clearly sensing the shift in atmosphere. She looked at her mother, then at Hoai, her eyes curious and attentive, as if trying to memorize the moment in her own quiet way. From outside, Hùng and Hoài Ca stepped forward. They did not enter right away, but stood at just the right distance, careful not to disturb the private space between Hoai and Tieu San. They smiled, then gently applauded. Not loud applause, no cheering, just slow, sincere claps. A quiet show of support from those who had known, who had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Hùng looked at Tieu San, his eyes filled with layered emotions. There was emotion at seeing his sister standing before such a major turning point. There was relief in realizing she was being treated with genuine respect. And above all, there was one clear feeling in his heart: happiness. Happiness that Tieu San was no longer alone. Happiness that the man before her had stepped fully into her life, not remained on its edges. Happiness that, as her brother, he could finally feel at peace watching her step into a new chapter. Hoai Ca stood beside Hùng, lifting her hand to wipe away her tears. She made no attempt to hide her emotions. Those tears were not from sadness, but from too many feelings converging in a single moment. She was happy for Tieu San, happy to witness a love that had endured time, challenges, and growth, finally reaching this decision. Under the soft lights, among the scattered petals, the moment unfolded slowly. No one rushed it. No one interrupted. Each person stood in their place, quietly feeling the delicate movement of emotions, as a familiar story prepared to turn a new page, beginning right here, in this very moment. No one spoke much in that moment. There were no long conversations, no lively commentary. The space seemed to slow itself down, making room for emotions that were quietly spreading. There were only exchanged glances, gentle nods, and a silent yet unmistakable sense of agreement among those standing in the room. Everything unfolded so naturally that no explanation was needed. Everyone understood what had just happened, and everyone felt the true meaning behind that moment. It was not merely a ring being offered, not simply a proposal spoken aloud. It was acknowledgement, acceptance, and a door quietly opening built on trust, shared by the whole family. Hung stood there, neither stepping forward nor stepping back. He watched Tieu for a long time, as if wanting to imprint this image deeply into his memory. His sister stood beneath the warm lights, her eyes still moist with tears, yet her face held a clear sense of peace. Not overwhelming joy, not loud happiness, but the calm assurance of someone who knows she is being cherished. In that moment, Hung understood that what mattered most was not how elaborate the proposal was, how the house was decorated, or whether the scene was perfectly romantic. What mattered was in Tieu's eyes, in the way she looked at the man kneeling before her, and in the certainty that radiated from both of them. For Hung, it was a very real sense of relief. The feeling of an older brother finally able to breathe a little slower, knowing that his sister had not placed her future in the hands of someone careless. He did not need to say it out loud, his silence at that moment was already an answer. Hoai Ca stood nearby, quieter than usual. She did not step in or break the moment with words. She simply observed every small detail, the way Tieu's hand trembled slightly as she reached out, the way Hai held the ring without haste or impatience, and the way Hung stood behind them, steady and silent. For Hoai Ca, this moment was not simply a carefully planned proposal. It was the result of everything that had come before: time, challenges, doubts, moments of rethinking, and silences spent asking oneself what truly mattered most. She knew that reaching this moment had not been easy for Tieu, and standing here had not been the result of fleeting emotion for Hai either. Because of that, Hoai Ca's happiness was not loud. It was a deep, quiet joy enough to leave her momentarily speechless. None of them voiced their congratulations out loud right then. Yet within that silence, there was one thought shared and acknowledged by all. One simple thing, yet the most important of all. All that mattered was that Tieu was happy. Not perfection. Not wealth or brilliance. Just that she could live true to her feelings, be loved the right way, and walk a path where she would not be alone. The lights in the small house remained soft and warm. Everyone stayed where they were, unhurried to end the moment. Because they all understood, there are moments that lose their meaning when spoken over too much. And in that quiet stillness, a new chapter of the story opened, without introductions, without grand declarations. Just people who understood, believed, and offered their blessings in their own quiet way. Stay tuned for the next episode to continue following the story.